If you've been following the news lately, you've probably seen that panic buying is hitting U.S. grocery stores again, and many essential products are facing bare shelves as consumers rush to hoard basic supplies. This trend is expected to accelerate during the fall as shopping demand peaks and seasonal shifts cause inventories to shrink nationwide. It's time to get ready for grocery shortages and chaos at stores as more and more people start stocking up on their favorite foods. That's why today we've compiled some items that are likely to face major price hikes and may completely disappear from supermarkets before you even notice it. But before moving on, we kindly ask you to support our work with a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our next list. Without further ado, here are 15 grocery products that will become impossible to find this fall. 1. Rice. Rice shelves have been hit by panic buying in recent weeks after U.S. shoppers heard that another import ban would hit supplies in the coming weeks, worsening shortages not only in America but globally. The pantry staple is another item that has already faced a significant price hike, according to the CPI. In the first quarter, the cost of rice has risen by 14%, and further increases are expected due to a tighter commodity market and supply chain disruptions. In July, India announced it would ban rice exports, and earlier this year, China and Pakistan placed import limits, citing environmental factors like flooding, droughts, and heat waves as the causes of lower production. On top of all this, demand for rice has risen due to the Ukraine crisis, as people are looking for alternatives to Ukrainian wheat exports. This means that the product will not only become harder to find, but shoppers will have to pay even more for it from now on. 2. Champagne. The holiday season of 2023 will be the third in a row in which shoppers will struggle to find champagne at grocery stores. European law determines that real champagne must be grown, fermented, and bottled within 100 miles of the Champagne region of France. Otherwise, it's simply sparkling wine. But French producers have been facing stricter regulations and a decline in champagne production due to the impact of climate change. France's Comité Interprofessionnel du Vin de Champagne, which regulates the French champagne industry, set another production limit for 2023 after reducing output by 18% in 2020 and 7% in 2021 and 2022. Meanwhile, demand has continued to outpace supply, in part due to the CIVC's limits and because it takes at least 15 months to make a proper bottle. The effects of supply, demand, and production limits are thus felt for years and will continue to limit champagne availability into 2024 and beyond. Rising temperatures in the Champagne region, followed by an unseasonal period of frost, destroyed grapevines. Moreover, higher than usual levels of rain during the summer created devastating mildew, and that has resulted in the lowest harvest of champagne grapes in decades. 3. Ketchup. California's drought is still having a cataclysmic effect on the food supply chain. The state is in the midst of the driest 3-year period in recorded history, and many crops of fruits and nuts are being impacted in 2023. The lack of rain has been particularly terrible for tomato farmers. The U.S. Department of Agriculture reported that yields are expected to drop by 2% over last year's production, which could lead the way to fewer tomatoes available for at least another year, not to mention all the products made with tomatoes, such as ketchup and pasta sauce. Major food makers such as Kraft Heinz and Mondelez already pointed to a decline in ketchup production and higher prices for their products this fall. In other words, if you don't want to run out of your favorite sauce, start stocking up on it, because it will get more and more difficult to find it at your local supermarket. 4. Bread. The ramifications of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine are still being felt in the food world and beyond. According to the Brookings Institution, almost a third of the world's cereal grain production, namely wheat, comes from those countries whose large-scale farming operations remain interrupted. With a large share of the wheat market offline, that's likely to result in a shortage of things made from wheat, like flour and bread. No ingredient is more crucial to bread dough than flour, but food industry analysts are even warning about global bread scarcity and saying that climate change will certainly make things even more complicated this year. In the U.S., farmers are reporting falling wheat crop yields due to extreme weather events, which is likely to lower the amount of available flour during the fall and winter. At the end of the day, a flour shortage wouldn't be limited to a lack of available bread. It can lead to short supplies of all baked goods, so enjoy them while you still can. 5. Ham. Prices for pork products are now rising faster than prices for other meats, poultry, fish, and eggs, going up by 5.6% in June and 26.7% year over year. A boneless ham now costs $6.57 per pound on average, while pork chops cost $4.98 per pound, up 5.2% in June and 17% from 2022 levels. However, the meat category still remains more expensive than pork, and that is making more customers choose ham over beef and chicken. Pork processors, however, are facing challenges to increase output as labor shortages persist. The fall and winter are also the seasons where the consumption of ham typically goes up. That's why it's a smart idea to start buying it right now before shortages leave shelves empty in the months ahead. 6. Spaghetti. Dried pasta is one of the most popular pantry staples that Americans rely on for a filling and inexpensive meal, but even this reliable item is now less affordable than it used to be. The average retail price for spaghetti is now nearly $1.89 per pound, and that's almost 29% more expensive than last year. The food is another victim of the wheat and flour shortage that's been gripping global supply chains. In April, pasta producer Barilla also announced production cuts and product recalls due to safety concerns at food plants. Buying in bulk may save you some money and help to replenish your pantry before inventories at grocery stores drop even lower. 7. Chocolate chip cookies. If you like to bake, then you're surely feeling the pinch of inflation in 2023. Two of the most basic ingredients for baking are surging in price right now. The average cost of flour has jumped over 28% since last year, while the average price of sugar has increased nearly 22% higher than last August. At the same time, eggs are almost 40% more expensive than in 2021, and chocolate is pricier too, up 16.4% since January. One predictable result of the rising cost of these baking supplies is higher prices for chocolate chip cookies. Today, they cost nearly $5.18 per pound on average, surging nearly 25% since last year. The lower availability of each of those ingredients is also squeezing supplies and can lead to bare shelves in the second half of 2023. Those who've got a sweet tooth should definitely look for sales and maybe put an extra box of cookies in their carts next time they go shopping. The change in seasonal demand can make this product sell out at stores faster than most people realize. 8. Ground chuck. Ground chuck is a leaner type of ground beef that comes from the front part of a cow's shoulders. It's typically made up of 80% lean meat and only 20% fat, which is why it's sometimes marketed as extra lean ground beef in the deli, or sometimes 80-20 ground beef. Meanwhile, ground beef is a combination of all the cuts of beef. So, when you look at their price tags, you'll find that ground beef chuck is more expensive than ground beef because it takes more beef cuts to produce it. But these cuts are in short supply this year due to a record drop in U.S. cattle production. Consumers will have more difficulties finding it at the meat counter this fall, and rising processing costs mean they'll have to pay a premium if they want to bring some of it home. Ground chuck is about 20% to 30% more expensive than simply ground beef, but that figure can climb up to 50% in the face of dwindling supplies. 9. Yogurt. The U.S. dairy shortage is still going and causing a lot of products to disappear from grocery stores in recent months, and yogurt is one of them. Prices are going up at a brisk pace too. According to CPI data, since January, yogurt prices rose by 19%, almost as much as milk and butter, which rose by 21% and 23% respectively. If yogurt is a staple you can't live without, maybe it's time to learn how to make your own. With temperatures dropping, food makers will have less incentive to boost the output of the product, which may only see the same supply levels next year. 10. Potato chips. Bad weather is also to blame for a decline in potato production, with this summer's unseasonably warm temperatures impacting crops in the leading spud-producing states of Idaho, according to the News Star. The average retail price for basic white potatoes is now about 97 cents per pound, up nearly 22% since last year. Some of our favorite snacks made out of potatoes are expected to disappear from shelves without a clear return date. That's why potato chip lovers should be on the lookout for deals and refill their pantries this month to avoid facing empty shelves during the fall. 11. Soup. Not only veggies and other key ingredients are costing more, but a raw material shortage is keeping aluminum supplies lower than expected for this time of the year, and that could result in shortages of processed foods that are sold in aluminum containers, according to the Institute of Food Technologies. Established brands like Campbell's Soup say they've been forced to raise the cost of their products due to the imbalance between supply and demand, as well as the higher price of ingredients and the aluminum packaging. Americans are already paying 23% more for canned soup this year, and this figure could climb up to 30% if seasonal demand continues to outstrip supplies in the third and fourth quarters. 12. Hershey Candy. Just as it happened during last year's Halloween, a shortage of Hershey Candy is expected to hit U.S. supermarkets in the fall of 2023, which makes now the perfect time to start purchasing your favorite treats. The company said that a shortage of sugar, chocolate, and shortening may impact manufacturing for yet another year, and even though they've already started to raise production levels, they may not be able to make enough candy to fully meet the Halloween deadline. 13. Instant mashed potatoes. Another potato product that can face a shortage in the coming months is boxed mashed potatoes. The easy-to-make side dish typically sees peak demand right ahead of Thanksgiving, but by then, grocery inventories may already be depleted. In many stores, they are already selling by $1 more than they were just a couple of months ago, and the trend is likely to intensify as inventories continue to shrink. 14. Hard taco shells. The corn shortage is making this beloved product face higher inflation and lower availability this year, something that's expected to continue in the next few quarters. According to the USDA, farmers were set to plant 89.5 million acres of corn crops. That's about 4% less than they had in 2022. That means corn farms are going to produce 3.7 million fewer acres this year, making for a significant dent in the overall corn supply. States such as Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Nebraska, and South Dakota are showing dismal yields which trailed numbers from the year prior. While the United States is the world's largest producer of corn, limited exports from other countries such as Brazil and Ukraine during this growing season haven't helped this situation, according to Successful Farming. This means that several corn-based products will become harder to find from this point on. 15. Red wine. Winemakers are sounding the alarm on an impending global wine shortage, as supplies are anticipated to have fallen to record lows in 2023 due to increasingly brutal weather, particularly in Europe's wine-producing regions. Extreme weather has already severely impacted wine production in Italy, Spain, and France, according to a statement by the International Organization of Vine and Wine, which has resulted in, quote, extremely low, unquote, product volumes. Meanwhile, producers fear they won't be able to supply the growing demand. Despite inflationary pressures, we still expect the global consumption to increase compared to 2022, said OIV's Director General Paul Roca during a recent press conference. This could be the third year in a row of lagging output, they said, approaching one of the lowest years in recent history, 2020. As temperatures drop and consumer demand picks up, stores are likely to run out of many of our favorite products in the next few months. That's why it's so important to think ahead and prepare for the potential disruptions that can hit our food systems.